Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. First, the highlights. Nigeria Labour Congress and trade unions suspend strike to reconvene in 2 weeks. Former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, says he's not afraid of being investigated by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Plus, Taraba security, Governor Kefa speaks on challenges as well as solutions.
This is Channels Television's breaking news.
Welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos. We begin with a breaking story that President Bola Tinubu has written to the Senate seeking the approval of the upper chamber to appoint 20 special advisors. However, in the letter read by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan during today's plenary session, the President did not attach the names of the special advisors to the letter. Well, after reading the letter, the Senate has given its approval to the President to appoint the nominees. So 20 special advisors written to the Senate by the President to be appointed, and the Senate has given its approval to President Bola Tinubu to appoint the 20 special advisors. We'll bring you more details as we get them, as plenary is still holding in the nation's capital. We continue in the courtroom, and this is where Senior Advocate Tayo Jegede is leading the team, the Presidential Election Petition Court. This is, of course, Mr. Jegede is the team leading the team for the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, as the tribunal resumed hearing today on the case between Mr. Atiku Abubakar and INEC, Bola Tinubu, Shetima, and the All Progressives Congress. We understand the second respondent, President Bola Tinubu's legal team, is being led by Mr. Wole Olanipekun, all in court, and he was addressing the court. The petitioner's counsel said that he intends to tender certified true copies of INEC election results that are available to them. He also informed the court that he will tender other documents of the first respondent, that's INEC, as well as other official witnesses he has subpoenaed, and the second and third witness did not object. Yesterday, the petitioner called 4 witnesses to prove his case, bringing the total number of witnesses to 10. We'll bring you more as that story develops. And a day before the commencement of their protest against the removal of few subsidy, members of the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress have suspended the action originally planned for June the 7th. The strike was suspended following an agreement struck between the two unions and a team set up by President Bola Tinubu to discuss the issues arising from the subsidy removal. Newly appointed Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, says the federal government and TUC, as well as the NLC, will establish a joint committee to review the framework for the completion of the rehabilitation of refineries. Now, other areas being worked on include the revival of the compressed natural gas conversion program agreed in 2021, proposal for any wage increase or award, and establishment of a framework and timeline for implementation. Others are a review of the World Bank Finance Cash Transfer Scheme, the review of issues hindering service delivery in the education sector, and others. The parties agreed to reconvene on the matter in 2 weeks.
The federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to establish a joint committee to review the proposal for any wage increase or award and establish a framework and timeline for implementation. 2, the federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to review World Bank finance cash transfer scheme and propose inclusion of low-income earners in the program. As you are aware, the $800 million loan did not really capture the low-income government workers. So basically, we'll be talking about how to include them in that scheme. 3, the federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to revive the CNG conversion program earlier agreed with labor centers in 2021 and work out detailed implementation and timing. The labor centers and the federal government to review and establish the framework for completion of the rehabilitation of the nation's refineries. 6, the federal government is to provide a framework for the maintenance of roads and expansion of rail networks across the country. So consequently, ladies and gentlemen, the parties agreed as follows. 1, the NLC is to suspend the notice of strike forthwith to enable further consultations. 2, the TUC and the NLC to continue the ongoing engagements with the federal government and secure closure on the resolutions above. And finally, the labor centers and the federal government to meet on June 19th, 2023, to agree on an implementation framework.
Joining us now is former Dean, School of Transport and Logistics, Lagos State University, Professor Samuel Odewumi. He joins me now as we wade into one of the sectors already feeling the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy. Welcome, Prof, to the program. Professor, if you can hear me, let's begin. Subsidy is one decision that has been in practically about every administration's table. How would you describe the decision of the new administration? Oh dear, we will come back to getting the professor to talk about this very important issue. But let's switch to security now, where the Kaduna State Governor, Ubasani, has been speaking about some of the problems as well as strategies to addressing insecurity in the state. Speaking during our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily, he said he strongly hopes that the Northwest governors can come together to deal with the thorny challenge and safeguard the region.
We made it clear that the approach by some state governors was extremely wrong. I remember when Kaduna State government and some states within the Northwest, and even Niger State, they have borders with us, came together to work out a framework to tackle this issue of insecurity. We had a joint committee, joint funding, working closely with all the security agencies, the Army and the Air Force and the police. But unfortunately, somewhere along the line, the alliance broke down. Only 2 weeks ago, I invited all the governors from the Northwest to Kaduna State Liaison Office in Abuja. I hosted them. Irrespective of our party differences, they all came and we sat down together with them, and we also came out with a kind of a policy framework to tackle the problem of insecurity, and we agreed that we have to have a common approach to the issue. We are planning collectively to meet Mr. President, and I will all assure each other that we have no option than to work together. That's the only way we can be able to fight the bandits as well as end the problem of insecurity in our own zone and our states.
Well, still staying with security, the 21 committee set up by Governor Agbu Kefas to woo investors to Taraba State says it is working with relevant authorities, security agencies, critical stakeholders to draw a blueprint that will address security challenges bedeviling the state. Chairman of the committee, Mr. Bako Benjamin, while speaking in Jalingo, reveals that the committee will ascertain the remote causes of insecurity in the state and has asked the criminal elements to repent. According to him, the committee will hold a summit to chat a way forward towards the security of lives and property, as well as explore potentials for the youth and women in the state.
Security has been a major challenge of this state. To the extent that I learned in Jalingo here, they go to people's houses, knock on their door, and bring people out and kidnap them. You go and pay them ransom before they are free. Sometimes it ends fatally. So we intend to put a stop to that. I think the security conference is the crux of the matter. That is the first thing that we have to get right before even businesses will try. We all know that without security, nothing will move. Nothing shall happen. So that is why a seasoned general is brought in now. A new narrative is being pushed to make sure that we eliminate all these tribal religious differences. Unless we begin to heal this wound like this, we will not pretend that there is no differences. There are. But the will to heal them and start afresh is what we are after right now. We are starting afresh. So people that are willing, we are offering an olive branch. They should please open their hands and take this olive branch. We want peace.
Well, we're back to one of our top stories, the issue of fuel subsidy, and transportation is a sector that's being affected. Joining me to talk more about this, former Dean School of Transport and Logistics, Professor Samuel Odewumi, joins me now. Prof, it's good to see you. Let's begin just to get your thoughts on, this decision by the new administration that fuel subsidy is gone. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, thank you. Nice to be here. Let me say this as a backgrounder. What happened on the inauguration day, I thought was a slip that the government had to run with. If you check the speech as posted by the presidential men, that statement, subsidy is gone, is not in that speech. But because he was reading from a prompter, maybe there was a delay and he decided to fill up that gap of the cuff, or maybe it's deliberate. But anybody that has access to that speech, we know that that word subsidy is gone was not part of the original script. And that three-letter word, subsidy is gone, became the bomb. Because immediately it dropped, all the fuel stations across the country got the message, and everybody, the marketers, want to hoard their fuel so that they will wait until the new price is announced so that they will maximize. So there was a build-up of fuel queue immediately. And so the government had no choice now. It's either to continue to say no and wait, which would have created a panic buy and long queues to the end of June. So in the end, I thought at the background, they now said, look, we better announce the news price and allow the fuel to clear, the queue to clear, and we will manage it. So they decided to go along. As we say in Yoruba, Egun Subu Odasidon, a masquerade fell and they turned it into a style. So that's my reading.
Running with what he said and what we heard on that day. But Prof, since the announcement, we've seen the cost of transportation skyrocket. It's not new in the Nigerian transport situation. But do you think that it calls for policy introduction in terms of pricing when it comes to transportation?
Well, as far as, we are the hardest hit, and because transportation facilitates all other things. There is nobody that will not be hit. So, but what we want to say first, as a matter of policy, is that what is in place now should be deregulation, not price fixing. The price fixing of NNPC is for NNPC alone. What we are insisting now, all the public commentators, is that, look, allow people now to go out, the Emeka that wants to go to Gabon, the Aruna that wants to go to Morocco to bring fuel So the only thing we should be doing is quality assurance and quality control. So once it is deregulated and anybody can go anywhere in the world and bring the fuel, NNPC will not be the monopolists that it is today. So their price will be their price. And because NNPC has a huge overhead of so many directors, but Emeka with his family importing fuel will not have a huge overhead and be able to sell at reasonably lower price. Definitely it may be higher than where we are now, but it will not be what NNPC is setting as standard.
What about the impact on the transportation sector?
I need to describe that. The impact is massive, massive, massive. In fact, people will now just learn how to adjust. A car that maybe you are feeling at 10,000 now, we go into something like 50,000 minimum. And you can see the impact of that on transport, on food, on everything. But if we, because some of us felt that there have been one or two steps that the government will have done before that announcement, before the end of the month. Once that has happened now, we can't go back. We must just face front. And then advise that we have gas. If you know that we say that Nigeria has a little oil, but plenty of gas. Now is the time to convert, cars. The federal government said that annually they will be converting about 1 million to gas. If you go to a country that is similar to Nigeria, like Bangladesh, all their tekemawans, all their this thing, they are on gas. So, and gas is at least not up to 20% of the price of fossil fuel. So it is just that now we just have to do the hard way. But if, as labor is demanding now, if you see their log of demand, especially the TUC, that let us go back to gas conversion, to make the infrastructural facilities available at all petrol stations as we have it for fuel, so that you can drive to any petrol station and collect your gas. So, and gas will be a lot cheaper. So we have to move quickly along that road in order to impact on the price. And then if you deregulate fully, and we are hoping down the road, Dangote will come on stream, and the government, because it has 20% stake in Dangote, they can say, okay, Dangote, we give you crude at this price, so that you will sell the petrol at this price to us. So what happened now is the worst scenario. And it can only get better if we have the courage to pass through it. Because the first thing that will happen is that the volume of 84 million liters per day they said we are consuming is outrageous. And most of them are just smuggled across the border. But if you now get appropriate pricing, everybody will be buying from within their country. We will be around 40-50 million liters per day, and that will be manageable. And so the cost on transportation, and they've increased the trips in Kaduna. I expect Ibadan, Lagos to also increase the trips of the train, so that many people more will now take advantage of the train in the meantime. And these are the adjustments that. And we are we had a roundtable with Chartered Institute of Transport Administration, for which I'm the chairman of the road sector. And we had a roundtable on Sunday, and these are some of our suggestions so that
Professor,
the huge impact on transport will be minimized. And
I must also ask you quickly, and this is with regards to the minimum wage. That's also one area that the Labour wants, the government to look at. So if we're looking at the disposable income of Nigerians, transport is tripling, the direct impact on inflation, do you think a review in the minimum wage can also address or reduce the impact on citizens?
Well, in the short run, for example, what Labour is demanding, I've been a union leader myself. I know that when you go to the table, you want to negotiate. That's the word. Is bargaining. So they brought 200,000 naira minimum wage per table, which Nigeria cannot afford, certainly. But definitely the federal government will move from where it is now, move a bit up, because also it has to have a balancing effect. You must do something that the state government and the private sector will be able to afford. Because if you allow it to skyrocket unnecessarily, there will be salary default. So that will happen. But beyond that, because just about less than 20% of Nigerians are in the public sector. The majority of Nigerians are in the private sector. What Labour is also demanding, which is also sensible to me, is that the $800 million grant from the World Bank, it's not grant, it's loan, should be used to cushion effects with identifiable people. Now, and the union is demanding, and I support them on this one too, that we now want to be part of those that you want to give this relief package or palliative or intervention, whatever adjectives we want to use, because either how these monies are just distributed is just like a scam. You don't know the criteria for selection of those that they're going to give. Then two, you don't know where they are and what they are doing with it.
Right.
Some of us have said that it is for political anger-ons. So, but with the involvement of Labour, they will be able to say, this is the way this should go.
Professor, we'd like to thank you, Professor, former Dean, School of Transport Logistics with the Lagos State University. Thank you for joining us on the program.
The pleasure is mine.
Well, we continue. President Bola Tinubu has tasked security and intelligence agencies in the country on the importance of information as well as intelligence sharing. It says to obliterate counter-productivity of resources in the fight against terrorism, highlighting the importance of backing their efforts with knowledge. He underscored that in order to achieve economic revival, prosperity and development, security should be of utmost importance. The president conducted a tour yesterday around the National Counter-Terrorism Center, led by the National Security Advisor, retired General Babagana Monguno. He assures that Nigeria is on the path of success and there should be no hoarding of information or intelligence, as advancing security is a priority for his administration. Well, the 10th Benue State House of Assembly has elected the member representing Woko West State constituency, Mr. Andona Dajo, as its speaker after 3 rounds of voting. His emergence followed a moment of commotion in the assembly as members engaged in a shouting march. The session had begun with the governor, Hyacinth Alia, inaugurating the 10th Assembly, paving the way for its 32 members to elect a speaker and deputy speaker.
32 lawmakers elected to the 10th Benue State House of Assembly are seated ahead of their formal inauguration. The All Progressives Congress has a majority with 21 members, while the People's Democratic Party has 10, with the Labour Party picking 1 seat. Governor Hyacinth Alia arrived for the proclamation and inauguration of the 10th Assembly with a promise to allow for separation of powers.
We are fully prepared to respect the sanctity of the doctrine of the separation of powers under democracy. We will not interfere in the internal affairs of the legislature, especially the election of its leaders. However, we are prepared to meaningfully work with those that you choose to lead this honorable house.
Then nominations start pouring in with acceptance speeches. The distribution of ballot papers, voting and the counting continue in smooth succession until both nominees got 16 votes each. One of the lawmakers asks that the governor excuse himself from the chambers so he could ease the pressure on members.
Because it has been practiced. It may not be a rule, it may not be a law, but that has been practiced. With all sense of humility, we ask that we be excused.
Immediately the governor takes his leave, members supporting the 2 nominees engage in open confrontations.
If it is a leakage, it's exam fraud and leakage, so I'll destroy my own.
Normalcy was finally restored and voting for the third time proceeded in a peaceful atmosphere.
9, 10, 11.
Mr. Ondana Dajo, member representing Boko West State constituency, declared the winner with 17 votes.
As a house, we pledge to key into the renowned home agenda of the President Tinubu-led federal government and deliver the goods of the Benue citizen. May I remind us that after the battle of today, innovation comes the challenge and facts of legislative duties. We are duty-bound to consult with our people, the people who give us their mandate, and to liaise with the executive arm of government so that we can turn out good legislation for the good governance of Benue State.
The House also elected Mrs. Lamit Aladi of Ado State constituency as the Deputy Speaker. She is the first female Deputy Speaker in the history of Benue State Assembly.
Our correspondent Pius Angbo joins me now from Makadi. Pius, so it was quite, the scene yesterday, the Benue State House of Assembly being inaugurated, and Mr. Rancor. Give us a brief, perhaps, analysis on what happened and if, everything is smooth now. And this is for things to run smoothly as the new administration hits the ground running.
Well, you're welcome to Benue State today. I'm here in Makadi, just beside the State House of Assembly. Of course, the governor arrived at the State House of Assembly at about 12 o'clock for the proclamation and inauguration of the 10th State House of Assembly. You have APC, the All Progressive Congress, with a majority of 21 lawmakers out of the 32. But of course, when it settled down to after inauguration and election of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker, became a thorny issues as these 21 members who are in majority were divided within two camps of supporting the nominee from Boko West, Honorable Mrs. Becky Opin, and the other nominee from Boko East, Honorable Dajo Andona, who eventually won. Now, the division within the ranks of the lawmakers to favor either of these two was what brought about that. However, the PDP had 10 lawmakers, and they aligned with the nominee from Boko East, who eventually emerged with 17 votes to beat the nominee from Boko West, Honorable Payne. So it's settled. It's all an intra-party interest that happened yesterday. The PDP was just a less interested party because they didn't have the number to contest for speakership, and so within themselves, after the first ballot, they couldn't get because it was 16-16 apart, and then they went for the second ballot. It didn't work. They took a recess, and then at the third ballot, it worked out. They were able to talk to themselves and resolve amicably, and the voting happened, and saw the result we have today. They will on that as the Speaker of the 10th State House of Assembly. So that's been put behind them as a government and as a parliament.
Our correspondent Pius Angbo, many thanks. We'll be keeping our eyes on the State Assembly and, of course, governance in Benue. Thanks a lot. We go on to other political stories. As part of measures to sanitize activities around the transportation sector and markets in Abia State, the governor, Dr. Alex Otti, has terminated all appointments for any type of revenue enforcement in the state with immediate effect. According to a statement signed by Kazia Uko, Chief Press Secretary to the governor, the affected persons are to return all government property within their possession to the office of the Special Advisor to the governor. Elsewhere, the governor of Cross River State, Bassey Otu, has appointed former Vice-Chancellor of Cross River State University of Science and Technology, Anthony Onwa-Eno, as Secretary to the state government. Mr. Onwa-Eno, a professor, is an elder brother to John Onwa-Eno, a governorship aspirant of the APC in the state, who withdrew his suit challenging the victory of Governor Otu at the party primary after the intervention of the APC presidential candidate. Governor Tu also announced 7 other appointments. And another news from Nasarawa says the planned inauguration of the 24 members elect for Nasarawa State House of Assembly has been postponed. The statement called on members elect and the public to bear with the decision as a new time would be communicated. And that's our program this afternoon. You've been served lunch this hour. Thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.